Let's talk about cameras today. I used to think that I should only pick either to make content for other videographers or make content for clients, like the video marketing content that I've been making. But I understood that I can actually just make both, and the proper video will find the proper audience. So it's just really freeing to know that I can create content about the things that I'm passionate about, and I don't really have to worry about whether if you are a filmmaker or if you're a business owner looking into hiring somebody to make your videos. So that being said, I just want to take you through the process of how we created this commercial for this fighter who was going to go to Texas and actually compete in a Muay Thai tournament. So this guy is a very good amateur fighter who's about to do his transition into pro, but he's got a record of like 22 and 1 or 2, 22 and 2, which is a huge record for somebody in his situation. But anyway, my goal here is to show you a little bit of what intel to go through shooting something like this and my approach to it. So that being said, we have here the timeline. This is the final timeline. This is a total of 2.5 minutes. This is designed to be more of a longer YouTube video as a countdown to the fight. This is not a quick ad, although it can be used as an ad. I'm sure you can run this as an ad because it has enough engagement within the first minute or so and context to be used as that. But the real reason why we created this is because we wanted to replicate what the UFC does when they do the countdown to the fight with some of their main title fights. So that's what this is intended to be. So these 2.5 minutes, I will play for you the beginning of the video pretty much. I don't know if you saw what happened there, but there is a lot of things that just happened from that duplicate with the shadow jutsu. If you watch any anime at all in your life, you will know what I'm talking about. But that's just something that I thought, I really like that composition right there. But then I thought, okay, what if, because he's staring at me from the end of the hall, what if I just make, some clones appear out of nowhere? And that's kind of like how I opened the video. This wasn't intended to be like that. It wasn't something that I planned and storyboarded for. I think my creative process is I just go. Sometimes we have a very structured way of doing things, but then some other times I just like to rewatch and rewatch the video so many times until I'm 100% sure that what I'm sporting is the most engaging and the most beautiful thing that will help me tell the story in a better way. So just because I understand how audiences can be a little hard to retain in this day and age, and this is intended for a younger audience too, because we want the people around his age to relate with the video and be able to share it. Then I added this quick little animation at the beginning just to cut your attention, make you watch a little longer into the video. So right there we got that, then a little shadow boxing, and then normal speed on the shadow boxing, maybe even 2 times the speed, and then we have a slow-mo of flying knee. This is a contrast. It's like music, right? You have on like classical music. That's why it's so awesome to hear like a symphony or something like that, because you go from the highest high to the lowest low, and just a little high, a little low, a little high, a little low, and that contrast is what makes you feel that something different is happening all the time. So that's why I like to blend fast images with slow images, because for you to be able to use the slow motion, it's impossible for you to be able to really get everything, all the feeling that you want to get out of the slow motion if you are not, if you don't have regular speed or fast paced images around that. Otherwise everything starts to feel monotone, and even if you have a lot of slow motion shots, they will not have the same impact. At the same time, and this is something you can probably see from like a lot of the real estate videos nowadays, is the opposite, where they have a lot of fast moving images, fast speed ramps, and then because there is so many of them, they start to lose the effect, and now everybody does them, so they even look more like everybody else. But it works, I guess. Some people love that kind of editing. I will just say use it when it matters. But that's why I do it like that, right? I distribute fast with slow. That way you can feel like it's compensating. But let's just keep going a little farther.
My name's Kaiser Espinoza. I was born in Miami. My parents.
And this right here, you just saw that, fast, slow, slow, fast. This punch in was done with no gimbal, no stabilizer, and that was done on purpose like that, because that helped me create that effect of haptic movement happening. So when I speed it up and slow it right against his face, you just see that, like that effect of like everything happening out of the sudden. So I just love the way that look. But anyway, here we're in the sit down interview. This is a beautiful shot in my opinion. I love to be able to set up the mood in the gym, and unfortunately the gym had a bunch of different lighting setups, so the electrical system was distributed on a way that we had different switches and we could use different lighting in different areas. So I was able to play with that on top of the artificial lighting that we brought, like that orange light on the background. That was us. We put a Amaran 300C in the background, just make it stick out, like make that light spill outside. Then we had a little overhead light on the left, just casting that rim light. And then we had another Amaran 200D as the key light on the right side, and the other side of the interviewer, which in this case was me. I was doubling down as interviewer, setting up everything, pretty much cinematographer, just as a one-man band, which I think it's something that you can definitely achieve if you have, control over the things that you are doing, if you have a good technical knowledge, and if you have the time. Of course, for some situations you might want to be, you might want to have a bigger crew. But if somebody is telling you that they definitely need 300 people on set to achieve something like this, they might not be too knowledgeable, or they might just want to sell you on a bigger package. So moving forward, that's the main angle, and this is the second angle. For the second angle, I used the Canon C50, which I'm using to shoot this video right now, so I won't show that right here. But so the C50, I made a video about that. I originally purchased that because I wanted to have a perfect companion for my Komodo Eds right here. So I feel like it did a great job. I had to fine tune, I'll show you. I had to fine tune a little bit the color. So I got 0.6 and then minus 1.1 on the Canon. Otherwise, it will look a little pink compared to the. So it's really almost identical, the color, but I had to do a little bit of fine tuning with the temperature and the tint on the C50 to make it equal to the Komodo Eds, because they are two different brands, they are two different sensors, so it will never be exactly the same. But I can live with the extra work as long as it's not too much, and as long as the result that I'm getting, it's something like this. So as you can see here, now they look exactly the same. And if you're a videographer, you might want to crucify me for doing this, but I'm using the same color space conversion LUT for the Canon and the Komodo Edge. So I'm using the Komodo Edge conversion LUT applied to the Canon instead of using the conversion LUT for the C-Log 2. I just use the regular one that I like to use with like medium contrast and all of that for the Komodo Edge. And what I do is I dial things down to make it look similar. So if I need to, let's say, lower my exposure correspondingly, or or change my contrast, my highlights, I just adjust all of that until I get the image exactly the same way that it looks on the other camera. You might be saying, oh, you could have just get the Nikon ZR and get a better color transformation. Maybe, but I really think the Canon ZR wouldn't be as good as the C50 for all the other use cases on my daily workflow that I have the Canon C50 for. So as it is, I think it's a perfect companion, but that's for you to decide, not for me. So for me, it is. For you, do whatever you want. But moving forward, now you know those were the two cameras. I'll show you the original shot here fully. This is a little crop, so you can see right here. So for the lens selection, I was using the Iris Cinema Primes for both cameras. That helped a lot to make the image look cohesive. So that way, at least the color is not affected because I'm using different lenses or anything like that. I think one of them was a 150, the tighter shot, the Canon, and then the Komodo was a little wider, probably like 30 millimeters. But that's the original shot. And then with the recomposition I end up going for something like that. Just a little more of a tighter shot, but still different enough from the second angle. So here I'm adding just visuals of him doing the different exercises, the different drills that he does. In my opinion, whenever you're doing journalistic type of work like this, you should add images that show what he's talking about. So here he's talking about his dad and how he's being a great influence for him. And like how his dad asked him when he was a kid and what he wanted to do, and he didn't know. He said he wanted to be a fighter, etc., etc. So that kind of stuff, it's very important for me to show relevant B-roll to help carry the audience through the story and be able to communicate a better story. This was all done with the Komodo Edge, all this footage right here. We did some different drills. The way I approach something like this is I want to switch between wide, medium, and tight and slightly change the angle of where I'm positioning the camera when I'm shooting B-rolls. Even though the space looks the same, I can get different angles of it and make you feel like it's not just the same shot all the time. And then the music here and the sound effects are something that a lot of people don't really talk about, but I want to be subtle with my sound effects just to absent whatever is happening. If there is a big punch, I want to hear that punch just fight in the background, but I want to hear it. And then the music is just carrying everything together. So I want to play it right here for you, the transition between the first song and the second song, when the whole rhythm and the whole vibe of the video starts to change and start to bringing you into more of like the deep part of the conversation, because he starts talking about his feelings, the way that he sees his career. So I want you to go from being excited about, oh, this is a video about a fighter, to be like, oh, he's a really good person and he wants to create something out of this career. So for me to be able to create that transition in the viewer's brain, I have to use all the resources that I have in my hand. And that goes from showing visuals that relate to that, but also having the proper mood, creating the proper mood with the music. So let's just hear this real quick.
But that really just came with time and a lot of hard work. A lot of days that look the same as the day before and the day after. Just train, recover, go to bed, get up, go to school, train, a lot of years like that. Yeah. The real truth, why I'm still doing this, because I honestly believe God put me here to do this. You know, like I have the perfect striking build, long, lanky. Happen to have found Skyler. Happen to have found, Phil, my strength and conditioning coach.
We don't have scenes of Phil, unfortunately. We weren't able to get those. But I don't know if you noticed something here super interesting is when I start fading out the previous song and I start introducing the next song. I use a resource. I use as a resource the sound of the jumping rope, and it makes perfect sense. He's talking about a lot of days looking the same, a lot of repetition, a lot of just doing over and over and over the same drill. So I'm showing him just jumping the rope because that's one of the most boring exercises that you can do. Really, it's not fun, it's not flashy, but it's something that takes a lot of effort, and at the beginning it feels super painful to do, and then as you train and train and train, and I know that for a fact because I've been through that, you start to get more and more and more and more time into it. So where 10 minutes of jumping rope used to look impossible at the beginning, after that you can do 30 minutes or even more. So when I started changing those two songs, I have the sound effects here, and you can start hearing the jumping rope right away.
Some hard work. A lot of days that look the same as the day before and the day after. Just train, recover, go to bed, get up.
You can hear it right here.
Or in the day after. Just train, recover, go to bed, get up, go to school, train. A lot of years like that.
There is a moment where you hear the previous song, then you start hearing the jumping rope really hard because you're closer to it, and the shot is a closer shot of him jumping the rope, maybe showing the floor. And then there is a moment where you no longer hear the original song, but you keep hearing the jumping rope hitting the ground. So that creates a bridge. And now at some point you start hearing again, or not again, but you start hearing the next song, and the jumping rope at the same time. So by creating that, it helps me to create a bridge and go from one mood to the other. And something like this is very technical. It takes, some practice to get done right, because you have to listen and listen and listen one and one and one and one time and another time and another time until you actually hear it right. And the problem when you're editing is sometimes, because like now I show you guys that was there, and if you heard that transition before, now you cannot not hear it, if that makes sense. So for us in the editing process, it's pretty much the same. When you're going through the edit and you know there is a hard cut that you want to avoid, you want to camouflage some kind of way like I just did there, it's really hard for you to not hear it. So sometimes you just gotta like look away, not look at the screen, so you don't see where the cut is coming, and try to see if you can like fool yourself with the transition with the audio. So that's just something I really think is interesting. And it makes details like that make for a better editor. It makes for a better product and a better story at the end of the day. So let's just keep watching a little more and see what else we can point out here.
Surrounded by people that create the environment to allow me to be where I am. I think it's destiny. I have no other explanation for it. The saying that 20% gets you 80% of the results, it really is true. And then after that 20%, you go to 21%, you're seeing very, very small improvements. It's all really about stacking those 1%, and it shows through in the ring. I'm doing everything in my power to get the win and not leaving anything behind, so I'm trying my best. Once I get that, then I'll really start to build that momentum, and I'll carry it into the professional scene. When I turn pro, I want to go straight there. I want to be with the big leagues. I'm not really scared to fight anybody. I don't really care about losing. I just want to fight the very best people to the best of my ability, and I want people that are watching that, I want them to be like, wow, that was a really good fight. That was the best fight I've ever seen.
And the music drops right before the last sentence. I don't know if you noticed that, but just build up, build up, build up, build up. The music is hyping up, and then it just drops, and it leaves you like that. And then he says, I want you to think that's the best fight I ever seen. Boom. That's the last thing you will hear when the video ends, and it's the only thing that you will probably remember out of the entire video. So that's why manipulating the sound bites like that helps you to tell a better story, because you want to leave the audience with one message at the end of watching. And I understand what his message is. I understand what he wants to tell people. And it is that he's an entertaining fighter. He's not just a good fighter, but an entertaining fighter. There is a difference between winning fights and making people be at the edge of their seats. And that's really important for a fighter. So I want you to know that that's what his message is. And the way that I archive that is by putting that as the last soundbite on the video. Lastly, I just want to briefly mention how time consuming it can be. This is a 1 hour long interview. All of this right here is footage that I had to go through. It looks really small because I'm zoom out, but this is a lot of different sound bites that I could have used. This is not the raw interview anymore. These are different sound bites that are related. So all these chunks that you see right here are sound bites from specific topics. And I just grouped them together to all of the ones that are together are from the same topic. So I first take out all of the places where he maybe messed up or say something wrong or something like that. Then I group all the sound bites based on their topics. So if he's talking about family, I put all the family ones together. If he's talking about how hard it is to train, then I put all of those together. If he's talking about how he sees himself or his career evolving over the years, or what's next for his career and stuff like that, that can be multiple answers about that. Then I group all of those together. And that's what gives me all of these different chunks. Then once I have that, I don't delete that. I copy that, put them at the beginning of my timeline, and then I delete the spaces in between and try to organize them by topic. So if I want to touch on, how he started training at the beginning, I put all the chunks about that first, and then next to that, try to tell the story chronologically and organize the chunks like that. Now, once I have those chunks together, then I have a total length. That length can be 6, 7, 10 minutes, even longer. And we don't want a 10-minute video. The goal was to make it shorter than 3 minutes. And then I take that and start listening to it over and over and over again until I hear the things that are important, and everything else that are maybe just redundancy or describing the thing one more time or adding more elements that I don't really need to understand the whole concept of the story, then I start taking those out. And I start getting rid of things and things and things until I have a smaller and a smaller and a smaller and a smaller version until I hit the amount of time that I want for my final form video. And of course, you have to account for some padding for music at the beginning if you're going to start with like an intro like I did, or some bridges in the middle, like the break that we have with the jumping rope where it transitions from one thing to the other. You have to account for things like that when you're planning on timing as well. So yeah, that's not a fun part of the edit, but something that gets overlooked a lot and is super important when you have a lot of information, a lot of sound bites like this. And when you have multiple speakers, it's even more interesting because now you group the speakers by topics. You group the sound bites by topic, not by speaker. So if you have 3 speakers and they are answering questions about different things, but similar similar questions from one to the other. If question number 1 was about like, okay, what are you gonna do today for training? Then we take all of the answers to question number 1 from all of the speakers and put them together. That way we make it sound like they are answering to each other, but they are telling the story through each individual answer. And the way we do that is by letting each person say a little bit of whatever answer. Let's say 2 of them say something very similar. We cut that to half, and then one say one half, the other say the other half, and then the third one just reacted on some kind of way. just adding value and adding, reinforcing what the other speakers say. So it's just really interesting. It's more than just putting cute little images together and adding music in the background. Editing goes a lot beyond that. So that's why it kind of gets on my nerves sometimes when people think that editing is just speed ramps and AI transitions. But anyway, this is just me giving you a piece of my mind when it comes to this. I hope you enjoy it. If you're a business owner looking to hire somebody, now you know who to hire. And if you're a videographer, I hope this was useful, brother. Let me know how I can help you, and I'll be happy to share knowledge and get some knowledge from you if you have any comments. And just please don't murder me about using the C50, the LUT for the Red Komodo with the C50. That's just the way I did it. I mean, and I think it worked. You tell me. Anyway, guys, thank you for tuning in. I'll leave you the link to the video somewhere around here so you can watch the final product. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.